Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. uh, Distinguished delegates from all the South Asian countries, honorable scholars and dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. Before going to address my remarks, I'd like to mention that I do not have an academic background, and from the other hand, my English is not really at the level of this conference. But I tried just to prepare a paper which will be in line with the theme of the conference. When I have got the invitation from IDSA, I told myself that it will be a great occasion for me to go and participate to this valuable conference and learn from experience in great scholars. First of all, on behalf of the Afghan government, in particular the Ministry of Information and Culture of Afghanistan, I grace this occasion to thank IDSA as well as other involved institutions for excellent arrangement made for this valuable conference in bringing together the academics and scholars across the region. Here I take this occasion, and I do not forget to thank the people and government of India for their generous support to the reconstruction and peace building of Afghanistan. It's immense pleasure for me to be here and participate to such an important conference, and look forward for the great outputs of the conference to further strengthen the cultural ties among the South Asian nations. Dear friends, to reflect the true picture of Afghanistan in South Asia, it's needed to have a look on Afghanistan in the past and present, as well as its place among the South Asian nations. The culture of Afghanistan has been influenced by many aspects. For centuries, Afghanistan has been used by invaders as their gateway to India and other Central and South Asian countries. Afghanistan has been the part of several mighty and culturally rich empires, which left their legacy in the region. The culture of Afghanistan is therefore the result of rich and long cultural heritage left in Afghanistan by many civilizations experienced in the history of the country, such as Zoroastrian, Buddhist, Indian, Mesopotamian, Persian, and Islamic art and culture. Afghanistan has never been inhabited by only one ethnic group, but various ethnic groups like the Tajiks, Hazaras, Pashtuns, Uzbeks, and other Iranian and Altai groups. While these ethnic groups differ in language and culture, they do share some common characteristics. Religion is a common trait that binds all those people. Islam is followed by almost all Afghans, and it dominates much of their personal, political, economic, and legal lives. In consequence, the present Afghanistan is a multi-language, multicultural, and multi-ethnic country, which is a land of the homogenization of different cultures. Many inhabitants are bilingual or trilingual. The lifestyle, the music, and traditions are diverse concerning the ethnic groups, and this diversity makes it difficult to judge the common culture of Afghanistan. The architecture is also influenced by the ethnic diversity. There are several historic cities such as Balkh, Ghazni, Herat, but after 3 decades of war, Afghanistan has lost quite a few of its historical monuments. Architectural remnants of all ages can be found across Afghanistan. Remnants of Greek civilization and Buddhist stupas and monasteries, intricate Islamic minarets, arches, and monuments have made this place rich in history and architectural significance. Unfortunately, during 3 decades of war, our country suffered a lot. This destructive war destroyed all the infrastructures and influenced different aspects of Afghan people's life. Especially in the field of culture, our country has experienced a very difficult and intolerable period. The tragic example is the destruction of Buddhas of Bamiyan. which was not only a loss for Afghanistan but also for the war. However, in spite of externally induced polarization, Afghans have always believed in building a plural Afghanistan. After decades of devastating war, Afghanistan has resumed cultural activities that could be a binding factor to build post-Civil War relationship. Afghanistan can benefit from the existing cultural diversity of the South Asian nations and try to build broad relationships with the countries of the region based on the power of culture and common historical heritage. Regional cooperation, in particular with neighboring and regional countries, is the key foreign policy of National Unity Government of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. Considering the geographical and cultural prospects, Afghanistan is being considered a South Asian country where the geographical and cultural relations are inseparable with other countries of the region. I believe with a different view of the future in targeted programs, we can open a new chapter of further bolstering relations among the region countries. Insecurities of the last decades have shown clearly that a stable Afghanistan is stability of the region. And if the region is not stable, it will affect the stability of Afghanistan too. Therefore, for having a stable future, we need stability and security in the region. And insecurity in Afghanistan will have directly impacts on the insecurity in the region. Here, Afghanistan's key role can be highlighted among South Asian nations. Afghanistan, considering the strategical location, can be the connecting point between the South Asia and the Central Asia. This will lead both the South Asia and Central Asia to both their commercial ties have the opposite characteristic, where such commonalities can be seen among the South Asian people, in particular their social, cultural, racial, and traditional aspects of life. South Asian countries represent one of the most diverse regions of the world, rich in both tangible and intangible cultural heritage. South Asia is a natural outcome of the shared cultural heritage of its nations. We share countries of common cultural heritage, common history, and deep civilizations. Beside the common values, at the same time, South Asia is also a great example of cultural diversity. Every member country is land of diverse culture and tradition, and the benefits of living in the diverse societies, learning about each other's cultures. Having a look on some articles regarding to the cultural diversity, I have noted some phrases which I'd like to mention here. The idea of cultural diversity has a very extensive capacity and is being experienced by people and societies all over the world. Generally, this idea includes people of diverse races, different religions, different ethnic nations. We can find it in different communities, from small villages to big cities, and that to all through the world. Diversity is an element of the society and has now become an important part of our life in different aspects. With the aim of living as a community, we all have to understand each other. Diversity enriches our lives. The biological diversity of an ecosystem increases its stability and productivity, but the cultural diversity brings together the resources and ability of people for the shared benefits of all. Sadly, sometimes the difference among us have formed the basis of conflict, intolerance, and even violence. But by learning to recognize our similarities and realize our differences, together we can conquer prejudice and intolerance and work toward a more peaceful and dynamic world or region. Multiculturalism does not promote racism or try to elevate one cultural identity above another. Instead, it celebrates diversity by allowing us to value our individual heritage and beliefs while respecting those of others. If you do not understand another's values, lifestyles, or beliefs, it's much easier to belittle them. And so the seeds of prejudice and intolerance are sown. A tolerant society is more favorable to create mutual trust and cooperation, it tends towards a more peaceful society. Insofar as we are willing to learn from others, we are more able to negotiate and compromise our differences. I'm sure that we can benefit from the cultural commons and cultural diversity to bring our nations closer and have a more interesting region in the future. Dear friends, one of the ways to improve the cultural cooperation between the South Asian nations is the SAARC Agenda for Culture, which I also think that will be a good platform to strengthen the cooperation among SAARC nations and introduce and preserve shared and diverse cultural values. Within the SAARC Agenda for Culture in Afghanistan, we had the honor to announce Bamiyan as the first SAARC cultural capital in June 2015. And it gave us the opportunity to have several cultural and artistic programs in this regard and welcome great numbers of scholars, artists, and high-level authorities from the South Asian member countries and discuss the cultural issues in promoting cultural cooperation within the region. One of the most fruitful programs was the Artist Camp that paved the way for the South Asian artists to get together and put forward their creative expressions on canvases. Artists from the region come to the beautiful valley of Bamiyan and exhibited their paintings as well as their prints on site. The objective was to create a forum for artists to share ideas and views and compare similarities and dissimilarities pertaining to art forms in the SAARC region. This program enables artists of the region to interact with each other as well as to give the public an opportunity to work and watch the work of artists from the region and to exchange the information about the culture and traditions of different countries of the region. To conclude my words, I think that we should emphasize on the regional exchange between South Asian countries in the area of culture. We would enhance the cultural exchanges within the South Asian countries through holding of the exhibitions, performances, information sharing, joint research on the cultural heritage and conferences like we have today. We should broaden bilateral and multilateral exchanges in culture and arts of South Asia. As experienced in the past, culture makes it easier to understand each other better and enable the people to overcome the economic and political barriers. I'm sure that the historical and cultural commonalities and collective identity in the region paves the way for bolstering the ties among South Asian nations. Our commonalities are more than our differences, and considering our commonalities and our differences, I'm sure that South Asia has the capacity to be a successful region in all aspects of cooperation. At the end, once again, I'd like to thank IDSA, especially Honorable General Director and dear friend Dr. Samaroti, coordinator of the conference, if she is here or not, and all other Indian friends for their generosity and warm hospitality and for organizing this important and fruitful conference. And I hope that this conference will open a new chapter in our regional cooperation. Thank you very much.